We're live now.
Yeah, I don't know how to do the what do you call it? The intro or whatever.
Fantastic. Actually, just you talking was a good intro for us. All right, hello, Fog fans. Welcome to Post Game Beers podcast. We are the Lupton Drinking Club. We are at Lupton Beers on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. If you haven't noticed, I'm sure you have if you're following the Instagram account. Martin has really been hyping up and adding a lot of that content in the last month or so. He's been doing a great job of adding stuff. So join on there and subscribe. We'd appreciate it. I'm your host, Kyle Malloy at YellMK on Twitter, joined by our producer, Crazy Ray Cartwright, who's about 3 seconds behind the rest of us. So if he starts talking over us, that's why. We've got our Sultan of Stat, Martin Guerrero. We will have the uninformed frog, Garrett Evans, join us shortly. He's probably wiping his baby's butt, but he'll be on soon. And unfortunately, the master of activities, Jacob Sailors, cannot join us tonight. He did not master all of his activities today. So he's just taking care of some of those. But his replacement just might be an upgrade. We've got unofficial LDC member, recurring guest of the pod, and the pride of Klein High School, Matthew Perk. Matt, welcome back.
Good to be here. Great to be after a winning weekend. You know, that's always the goal for me, is not to come on after we lose, because that's just real fun for everyone to see my face and associate that.
Awesome. Well, we're glad you're here. And
Dude, that was your entire first half of last year.
I was worried I was going to get
after
rescinded.
weekend
all
losses.
the invites were going to get rescinded.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. Hey, Ray, let's get it started right. You just held up a cool, refreshing drink from Finland. When you're enjoying a perfect Sunday of frog ball, what's your go-to beverage of choice?
Oh, definitely a long drink. And it doesn't matter what flavor either. They're all good. I'm currently enjoying the nice peach. Very refreshing, very crisp.
Hey, Peach Twins.
Triplets. Let's go peach. Thanks for that incredible ad read, Ray. Really appreciate all the information. But no, seriously, we love the peach. We love the zero sugar option, just 99 calories. Long drink is really stepped up, and we appreciate the sponsorship. We'll get to our second sponsor later on in the pod, but let's get rolling. We're going to quickly just talk about Tuesday night before we get into the awesome weekend versus UCLA. The Frogs hosted Texas State in what turned out to be kind of a close game. No one was really expecting that until it got close towards the end. It was a tight matchup. Frogs took it 6-5, despite going up 5-0 after 3 innings. So we thought it might be a beatdown. It was not. We saw an inside the park home run. Chase Brunson, great dive, just unfortunately missed it, rolled back to the fence, and the runner scored. We saw Ben Hampton, his Frog debut. He got through 3 innings unscathed, gave up a bunch of runs in the fourth. We'll talk about that a little bit. And then I saw what might be the best assist that didn't count I've ever seen in my life, going back to Chase Brunson. Massive ball hit to center field. He throws it on a frozen rope to Carson Bowen, and unfortunately, he just couldn't squeeze the ball. But that runner was out by a foot, and that would have been one incredible play. Unfortunately, didn't count, but we saw the potential, I guess you could say, of Chase. Brody Green went 3 for 4 on Tuesday night. He cemented his role at third base, and we saw that play out over the weekend. And what else, Martin? What else stuck out to you about Tuesday night versus Texas State?
Ben Hampton was great. He was pretty electric. I was surprised with the amount of strikeouts that he had, but after that weekend of our starting pitchers having trouble keeping the other guys off the board, it was nice to see Ben Hampton keep a pretty good Texas State team down.
Garrett, what you got from Tuesday?
Yeah, so Ben Hampton was impressive. Also, our guy Luis Rodriguez as well. He pitched 1 2/3, I believe, and still had 3 Ks. So I really want to start seeing more and more of him this year. I'm really excited about him this year. So that was fun. Also, wrong team, but can we talk about that Farber kid for Texas State? My goodness, man. That was wild.
Did he go
He
4 for
had
4 against
Four
us?
for 4. I don't know if he's missed a baseball yet in his collegiate career.
Yeah. Another guy we wish we could transfer in the middle of the season. Matt, did you get a chance to watch the game on Tuesday?
Yeah, I was able to catch a little bit of it. It's the same old. We can always beat Texas State at home. It's just what happens when we go to San Marcos. That's it's just I always look at them like, yeah, we're probably going to beat them at home. That's pretty much. But let's just avoid getting run rolled down in San Marcos. Like, let's try that one this time.
Good thing we don't play them in San Marcos this year.
I know. I was like, good. We don't have to double dip because I mean, it is notorious. I've seen it too many times playing and or coaching. I'm like, I don't know what happens. We just forget that baseball's supposed to be played that day.
It was kind of weird over the fall going down to San Marcos, and we just tore them up in the first 7 innings, like 14-3. I was not. I mean, obviously Mora didn't play. I don't even think Ferber played, but it was just weird to see.
Like that's too many runs we scored down there. That matched like I think 3-year total down there. It was like that one scrimmage.
All right. Well, solid start to the week.
I think it was nice for Tuesday. Sorry, MK.
No, go ahead.
I waited for a break. Just that we have a legit Tuesday starter this year. You know, we're not reliant on freshmen or random arm. We have a legit Tuesday guy to roll out.
I mean, we've only seen one game, but I agree with you based on that first performance. It'll be interesting to see if Ben continues to improve and potentially, grabs a Sunday spot or something like that. So but we can talk about that when we talk about the starting pitcher for the weekend. A very successful weekend for the Frogs. We'll talk about just a snippet of each game, kind of do a couple notes from each game, and then at the end, maybe some bigger picture stuff. So if you have a kind of a theme from the weekend, let's save that to the end, and we can kind of wrap it up with some questions. I appreciate guys like Jackson Day and Damon, in the chat already asking some questions. So appreciate you guys being here. So game 1 Friday night, Frogs go up early with the help of Curtis Byrne, who had a big night actually on Friday. 2-run home run in the second inning. Brody Green knocks in his first homer of the year in the 5th, and that was a 4-2 lead at that point. UCLA would only going to score one more run, so it was a close game. Frogs ended up taking it 4-3. Peyton Tolley was on the mound, saw him improve. He went 5 innings on Friday, only gave up 2 runs on 3 hits, including 4 walks and 7 strikeouts. And Ben Abelt notched his 3rd save of the year, basically giving up nothing in the last 2 innings. So close, but fun game. I was there, don't remember it feeling that close, but it was. So thoughts from y'all?
Yeah, I would agree with you. It didn't feel close at all, especially down the stretch. Maybe some of it has to do with 2 really nice double plays their night as well. I mean, I believe both of those double plays came after allowing a guy on the first through a walk. So every time UCLA was kind of sneaking in there to get an opportunity, it seems like we shut them down. I think those double plays had a lot to do with that.
I mean, it was obviously a close game. It was a 1-run game, but like you said, it didn't feel close. I think a lot of that had to do with the guys we had on the mound. Tolley, Ayers, Collier, and Ben Abelt. I mean, those are like our A++ guys. That's your Friday guys. That's your big energy guys. That those guys are going to carry you to a win. More times than not. And then Kyle Ayers specifically, I mean, that was pretty crazy. He came out of the bullpen throwing 95, 97. We haven't seen that in a while. And then Collier too. I mean, we've seen him pitch this year, but he was pumping it in 95 as well. And then we had Ben Abelt coming for a 6-out save. Like the pitching was just, they really carried the team after a weekend of everybody on Twitter. Oh man, what's up with the pitching? You
mean the most overreacted weekend in all of college baseball?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Everyone stinks or everyone's going to win a national championship. Those are the only opinions you can come away from.
Yeah.
I thought it was way better. I thought it was way better as far as that. I think the biggest thing you take away is the trust that Kirk has in the bullpen for Saturday and Sunday to allow Abelt to throw 2 innings. That's a trust thing. That's not in some years you have to do it because that's the only way you're going to win. But typically for this group, it's like he can throw him 2 innings knowing he's not going to throw the next day, more than likely, because he's got enough guys to be able to back it up. The only negative I have was it was a positive, but it's also a negative is we got to watch. We can't always rely on a double play after a walk. Like you can't. That's the stuff where with Tolley, it's like walks are going to happen, but if they happen in bunches, that's where it's like that's an out of sync. Like that's a mechanical thing versus it just being like, hey, just the AB didn't go his way, didn't get a call, that kind of stuff. And so that's my only thing from Friday is watching him is based on how he throws. He's susceptible to getting out of sync. If he gets out of sync, it's it could be 8 straight. And then it's like if we don't get a double play and they get a flare hit, it looks a lot different.
Do you think he's one of the more volatile pitchers on the staff where he might be able to go 7 or 8, if he's having a strong night, but he could also be knocked around early and have some wild pitches kind of get off his routine? I don't know. Yeah,
I think you're going to see with him, most of his starts are going to be like 90 pitches in 5 innings. Like I think that's what you're going to see. Just based on it, because even without the walks on the other ABs, it's like if you look at it and kind of go through the sequencing, it's like everything's 3-1. Like he's coming back from 3-1, and if you do that over and over and over, it's just you can't go deep in a game, and also you're hoping or not hoping, you're just relying on somebody to make a play to kind of bail you out. And so that's the part where, but at the same time, he's going to have days where he walks out there and everything's going to be lined up, and you're going to see 8 innings shut out with 12 punch outs. But I think, on the average, we're probably going to see more 5 innings with 95 pitches than we are not.
Just going back to Ben Abel for a second. Oh, go ahead, Martin. What's up?
Oh, I mean, it's kind of similar to what we've seen from Tolley during his time at Wichita State. Sometimes he'd throw a complete game shutout against ECU, and then the next week maybe get lit up by Houston or Tulane or something. But he does rack up strikeouts.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to stuff. Stuff is good. I want to see some improvement or some growth in his secondary stuff. I don't see it as a lot of wipeout stuff. There's not really that true second wipeout pitch. You know what I mean?
Right.
And when you're looking at a Friday guy, you really want that guy to have that, because when we get into the heart of Big 12 play, like those Friday night games are not going to be 7-7-5, whatever. They're going to be 2-1, 3-2. Like you need to have a guy that's got the swing and miss. So hopefully we can see some growth from the secondary stuff. But because of the way he throws in his arm slot, you're going to get swings and misses on fastballs that shouldn't, or you wouldn't expect it if you're just watching it. But at the same time, his thing that makes him great can also backfire.
What do you think it is with the his fastball is mostly 89 to 91, but some of these swings that he gets out of guys, it's like they had no idea he was going to throw a fastball, even though he throws fastballs 90% of the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just the arm action and like his motion. You know what I mean? Like his body, especially for left on left hitters, his body, you look at it, his entire direction is towards the on deck circle. And then he's coming completely across it to come around, and it's a low arm slot. So it's almost like if you look at it, it's kind of like he gets it and almost pushes it back up versus coming down from up to down. It's almost like he pushes it up, which kind of can create a little bit more ride and just deception to it. But yeah, I mean, it's a great, like I said, it's going to be his calling card, but if it's not in sync, we can see some short outings. And, fortunately for the Frogs, we may have the most mid reliever depth that we've had in years to be able to bridge the gaps in those kind of situations.
When you mentioned Ben for a second, you said him having more trust from the coaching staff to get out there for 2 innings. If that was not the case, would you expect there to be another mid reliever between, I guess, Zach and him, and he would just come in kind of in the ninth? Is that what you are assuming, or should I assume that?
Yeah, no, I think it's one where, it's definitely the portion if he didn't believe that he could get 6 outs, he'd have somebody to bridge to him, or the bridge that we're seeing, with Collier and different guys, like they would go another inning. They would pick up the extra inning and they'd send him out for 3 outs. But with him, towards, I would say probably halfway through the season last year, after we've all documented his year, but like there towards the end of the season, you really saw the ability where, all right, he can go get you 6 outs if need be. But I think it more comes down to he's allowed to throw 2 innings and do that because we have enough depth to handle the rest of the weekend and not need him on back-to-back nights as much as we have in the past with closers.
Ray, we've already mentioned Curtis Byrne and Brody Green having a big night. Did you have any other offensive notes or things from Friday?
To pitching, I thought the defense behind the pitching was much improved from the previous weekend. And it kind of went hand in hand with the pitching where there wasn't like extra base runners also given up, via the walk or whatever. I thought the defense was really crisp on Friday.
Yeah. A friend of the pod, Bella Fox, in the comments said it was nice to see some really good fielding after having 7 errors in the first 4 games. And you're absolutely right, Bella. We only saw where we didn't have any errors on Friday, none on Saturday, and a couple today. But even so, going from a weekend of 8 to 2, a little bit of improvement there. All right. So successful first night. It was nice to get off to a 1-0 start against the Bruins. Moving on to series Saturday, game 2. Absolutely perfect evening in the fort. Generally a pretty close game until about the 6th inning when the Frogs put up a 4 spot, which was this absolutely perfect push bunt by Logan Maxwell. Somehow he dropped it just past the pitcher, but in front of the second baseman where when he tried to flip it with his glove, it was too high to first base. He was safe. The runners were safe moving over, scored a run there. 2 batters later, Curtis Burns set an absolute laser over center field for a 3-run shot. That took the lead to 6-1 Frogs. And despite the Bruins kind of coming on a little bit later, scoring a couple runs, they would not be able to overcome that. TCU picked up the series win 6-3 on Saturday. Didn't mention pitching, but I'll throw it to you, Martin. We saw Cole Klecker go 4 1/3. What do you want to talk about, Cole?
I mean, pretty much every pitcher, ever since the Ben Hampton start, it was good to see guys not give up as many runs. I mean, they didn't go as deep, but Cole looks a little different from last year. He looks like he's got a little bit more swing and miss. And then obviously Braden Sloan came in. You know who he reminds me of is Russ Smith a couple years ago. His obviously he's tall, left-handed pitcher, and then the demeanor on the mound. He gave up a couple runs, but I mean he went 2 2/3. That was huge.
Big night for both Cole and Braden. I'm going to throw it to Ray in a second. Cole went 4 1/3. Like I said, 1 run on 6 hits, 3 strikeouts. Braden, Ray, what you got? I'm gonna run to the bathroom. By the time I get back, you should be done talking. So,
Yeah, what I was going to say is to Cole Klecker, talked to Kirk after the game, and he was talking about mechanical adjustments that Cole had made between start 1 and start 2 that had really paid off. And then you saw a lot of growth from Braden Sloan, and then also Chase Hoover. To trust Chase Hoover to come in and close down the game, I thought was a huge moment for Chase and his development as a pitcher. And also with Braden Sloan, it can't be understated. Those strikeouts he got in the 5th inning when he came on with runners on 1st and 3rd, 1 out, goes K, walk K to get out of the inning. That saved the game. That was a ball game right there. And then, TCU goes on the next inning. Curtis gets the big home run, puts TCU up 6-1, and UCLA doesn't have the offense to come back from that big of a lead with so few outs left in the game.
Mm-hmm. Martin mentioned something about Cole looking a little bit different. Matt, have you noticed anything this year versus last year? I mean, it's only 2 starts in, but it's time to overreact. Let's just get it all out there.
Yeah, no, let's just go ahead and mark how a season's going to go. We all picked him to go, 10 plus wins last year in the beginning. That's what we did, right? it's this time of the year. Like obviously, guys are trying to get back into the swing of it. They're trying to find their routines week to week, and so what you want to see, isn't just improvement in any area, from start to start, right? And so for Cole, like obviously last weekend looked a little bit different. Obviously home runs, all that kind of stuff, which I mean he is susceptible to. We know that, right? He's not going to overpower you. He's not going to, just wow you with stuff. And while he had 3 strikeouts, we're not going to say that he is you know, a dominant strikeout pitcher, right? He relies a lot on defense, that kind of stuff. And so, to see him come back, be able to throw, get into what was it? He got into the 5th, right? Yeah. Before everything kind of fell off. So like, that's the thing that I look for is like, can these guys get into the 5th and 6th inning at least early in the season? Because that tells you where they are, as far as conditioned, how they feel, that kind of stuff. And, you don't want to spend the first month of the season having starters go 4 innings, because then you're burning those guys in the bullpen for when it gets to May and June. That's when you're going to need them.
Do you think Cole? So he didn't pitch in the summer. I don't think he pitched in the summer, but he missed a lot of time in the fall as well. Do you think that has maybe contributed to this, I guess, slow start for Cole?
Well, you kind of think of it this way, like he's never had that much time to not pitch. You know what I mean? Like think about like his trajectory, like, in high school, you're playing your high school season, you go into summer ball, like that kind of stuff. Like, so he probably, experienced the longest he's ever experienced in his, short career of playing baseball of not being on the mound. And, we all know that like you can't simulate game reps. I don't care how many live VPs we do. I don't care how many scrimmages, like every coach knows this, like they're not live, right? It's just not, it is what it is. So I think that can factor into it for sure. When you have that time off, just trying to get back to it. But at the same time, it's like, hey, as long as, especially in the early part of the season, if you're getting wins when you're not getting deep games from your starters, good sign for your offense. You don't want to rely on it all year, but you'll take it early on for sure.
So Frogs moved to what's this 6-0 at this point. Martin, you mentioned a couple interesting stats about one of the best starts or they've had since 1994. Do you have those available?
Yeah. So they started 9-0 in 1994. At that point, so the last time they were 6-0, they had only had 1 NCAA tournament appearance in program history.
And we're talking regionals?
Yeah. 1956, up until that point, was the only time TCU had been. Obviously, 1994 was their second year that they made a regional, but when they started 6-0 that season, they hadn't made the regional yet. And head coach Kirk Sarlos apparently he was playing soccer in high school. I saw a Cohen tweet about that. I mean, I knew he was in high school, but apparently he was playing soccer. And then Nolan Ryan and Tom Grieve, 2 Rangers Hall of Famers, their sons were pitching for TCU.
When you walked in 2010, Matt, did they talk about that 1994 team? Okay.
No, they did not. No offense to those guys. They all came before us. They had to endure some things we never had to endure. Yeah. Just like we had to endure what these, I didn't get new cleats, guys, for 2 years. I got 1 pair. Okay. We didn't have extra dollars to throw around at that point.
I had an intro question I forgot to ask you, so might as well do it now because it's a good transition to that. What's a statistic or like analytical tool? Maybe it's a piece of equipment, something that guys have now in college that you would have benefited from in 2010, 2011.
TrackMan is probably one of the best things that's been able to come out. Just being able to see, like, I would have loved to have known kind of my mapping of my pitches to see it and be able to kind of, because you just went off of what you just looked at it and you're like, okay, this makes sense, arm slot, what that does and all that stuff. But I would just would have loved to have seen it, and then know how to, okay, maybe if we change a little bit, maybe to manipulate this way, like how much it could have changed the depth. Because honestly, that didn't kick in till like right at the end of my like professional career, which now is a tool that these kids are, they're on it when they're 10 years old, trying to figure out how to, create more ride, which that will say that's also a detriment to now, is because now kids are chasing what they think is beneficial or what they should be versus like letting their bodies actually dictate what they are. You know what I mean? All these kids are chasing high ride fastballs, but it's like, dude, you can't throw high ride fastballs. Like that's not how you throw. Like you need to be a different kind of guy. So it helps and it hurts to a certain extent. But yeah, I would have loved to have been able to see that and kind of look at it and play with it for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Comment from Bella: Perk would have gotten stupid NIL money to come here. I think we agree on that. What were you? Was it 16th overall pick from out of high school? Is that right?
Yep, 14th. Had a conversation today with a guy who was like, "Man, I was real bad that you didn't sign." I go, "You do remember they went bankrupt, right? Like that doesn't happen in sports, but they did." Like I was like, "Wasn't all me." But I would have.
I just wish I had the opportunity in life to turn down that kind of money.
No, you don't, Ray. No, you don't. You didn't want the entire Metroplex mad at you.
Oh, that is interesting.
But you're an Astros fan anyways.
Fort Worth that was happening. No.
All right. So, well, actually, let's take a quick break to mention our second sponsor. You can see it on the screen, Hell's Half Acre. Garrett, when you're going to Lupton Stadium and you want to look your absolute best, you want to look good for your wife, obviously your baby, you care about what your baby thinks. You want to make the other fans go, dang, what's that guy got on? What's his fit? Where's your go-to?
There's really only one option. It's Hell's Half Acre Stadium Goods, the very best to do it in Fort Worth. Some of the coolest stuff. The throwback TCU hat is getting a lot of love right now. I love that hat. I went with this one today, though, kind of more low key. This happens to be my favorite Hell's Half Acre hat. The original patch on there. You really can't go wrong. I know Jacob was wearing the baseball polo yesterday with the jerseys and bats, everything on it. It's an awesome look. So all you guys go on there, use our link, get their stuff, support them, and wear it to Lupton this year.
Awesome. Thanks, Garrett. All right. So Frogs are 2-0, hoping to go for a sweep on Sunday. Warm February day. I was shocked how hot it got outside today, but it couldn't have been a more disastrous first inning for the Bruins. I just want to break this down quickly before we get to the rest of the game, which is kind of a blur. But the Bruins start with the bases loaded in the top of the first with a walk, an error by Brody Green, which was kind of surprising. He had such a great weekend defensively, and then another walk, 0 outs. My immediate thought was, all right, let's see how quick this hook is for Zach Morris. I didn't know if they would let him, give up 3-4, or if they would say, hey, we've got a fresh bullpen. We're gonna figure this out with everybody else. But next batter strikes out, and then Morris finishes off the inning with a double play, no runs scored, which again, that was huge. In the bottom of the first, the Frogs bat around completely. They put up a 5 spot on 6 hits, starting with Peyton Chatnier's home run on the second pitch of the game. So from that point on, they could have ended the game right there and let UCLA get home a couple hours earlier, but they kept playing. So TCU put up 2 more in the second inning. 7-0 at that point felt pretty insurmountable based on the way that UCLA had been playing all weekend. A 5-run 6th inning, including Carson Bowen's massive 2-run shot. A few unearned runs there. There was a bunch of errors in that inning. I actually rewatched it. So there was a pass ball by the catcher. There was a double play ball thrown. That was a perfect double play ball to second base. Second baseman missed it, overthrew his shortstop. There was a missed catch in right field. It wasn't an error per se. He was just about a foot or two short. That even Chuck LaMandola thought he caught it, but it bounced first. And then the third baseman, their all-star, Rock Chalowski, missed a grounder. So just a bunch of stuff. Everything was going wrong for him. And that brought the lead to 10 runs. Solid performance by Zach Morris, some strong innings by Caden Parker, and then we saw Andrew Mosiello finish out UCLA in the 7th inning. The run rule was in effect, and the Frogs took it 13-3, ending just an incredible weekend for Frog Ball. So, Garrett, pitching-wise, we saw Zach Morris, I mentioned, Caden Parker, Andrew Mosiello. Any thoughts on those guys?
Yeah, man. Zach, again, he was impressive. He had 5 strikeouts today. How many innings did he go? He went 4. Yeah, so he went 4 innings, and then for Caden and Andrew, glad to see. I was happy to see Mosiello get in the game today. I think that was really cool. But dude, it's super hard to look at the kind of the back half of this game for the guys who came into the pen because man, kind of like you were saying with those errors, UCLA straight up looked like they did not want to be there. Like after the first inning, you load them up, you get denied, and then chat just kind of ruins your afternoon. Yeah, from that moment on, it just looks like those guys they're ready to get on back home.
Zach went 4 innings, like Garrett said, 88 pitches. Is there an issue maybe with some we call it inefficiency there? Is that a concern at all?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at him, he's got 8 innings and 7 walks, and that part that's not because what you want out of your Sunday guy is a strike thrower. That's all you care about, like because you've gone through 2 games, bullpen's been used, you played that kind of stuff. You're just looking for a guy to force the issue and throw a ton of strikes, and so for him, to be 88 pitches in 4 innings, again, it's early. They'll find their footing, but still at the same time, it's not like you're not walking away from going, yeah, that was great. Thanks. That's tough. You can't have that all year. It can happen now. It can happen for the next 2 weeks, but we get about 4 or 5 starts into this and he's still ripping 4 innings. It's just not going to end. That won't be sustainable, So for me, it's just, let's cut the walks. Like I said, when they come in bunches, that's the scary part. Not when they happen every now and then, but when they come in bunches and we talked about the first inning, like that's the game right there. Right. If they find a way to get a ball in the air, we don't know what this game looks like. And so that's the part where you look at it and you go, hey, we came out of it unscathed. It doesn't, just the box score doesn't tell that story, but you definitely want to see improvement next week. But when you sweep a team, you sweep a team. You're going to take the ugly just as good as the good, but long term, you're definitely going to want to see a lot more strikes out of that Sunday guy because the last thing you want is a 3-inning start and then you got to rip 6 out of the bullpen.
Hey,
yeah,
Matt,
it's a great point. That this could, sorry, Martin, just say that first inning, one thing doesn't go our way, we're looking at a completely different ball game right now. So that's a very good point.
I mean, we did have something not go our way when Brody Green committed the error, which probably could have been a double play, and then there was another error in I don't know maybe the 3rd inning where we could add another double play. So that's 4 outs right there that you could have had. I mean, that's pitching into the 6th inning. Do you think, and going back to last week during Morris's start, TCU had 4 errors. So do you think that when plays do not go your way, you think pitchers try to be more fine, or you think maybe that's what's leading to, these walk counts being higher?
Yes. I mean, the famous saying is like, they always tell you, the coach always says, like, when a guy makes error, you just let him know that you got him again. You'll get him the next one. It's like, I don't really want to get him the next one. Can we hit it to somebody else? Like, I'm not 100% sure I want to get him the next one. So yeah, I mean, it's a tough spot. You get into a point where what you don't want is the pitcher to feel like he's got to do it himself. That's when you see issues. If he feels like he's got to do it himself, then he's going to start trying to be too fine. He's going to try to start picking at the corners. He's going to walk more guys, give up more hits. It's just going to be a disaster. So you really just don't want that mindset to set in. But yeah, the old adage, like, I'll get you the next one. It's like, there's been some guys I'm like, I don't want them to hit him a ball again. Like that's just, I'm okay with it.
Perk, I have a question for you. So Cayman Parker came in today after Zach Morris, and he's working himself back from Tommy John the previous year, and he gave up a solo home run and then was kind of sharp to finish the inning, and then came out the next inning, gave up a double that was laced to the wall, and then, settled down and all that. How long does it take a pitcher to kind of get back into that groove of things after being off so long?
It's a great question, Ray. They always tell you that you can come back at like 12 months, that 10 to 12 month is when you can get back on the field. But to be honest, you don't see your stuff again until like 18 to 24 months. And that's something that I experienced. I got back 12 months to the day of my Tommy John, and I really didn't feel comfortable until that back half of the season when I got to that 18th month mark. And so it really, while you can pitch and like you're physically able to do it, the hardest thing to get back is your feel for your secondary. I mean, that's the toughest thing, and it just takes time. And so, I'm hopeful that we can get more opportunities like this one for Cademan when it's very low pressure, low stress, where he can come in and kind of find his footing and get some innings. Because I mean, if we can get him basically to a point where he was coming into TCU and what he can show, that's a huge weapon. That's a huge weapon you can have for a guy, towards the middle to the back end of the season. Because he's one that I think if he kind of figures it out, like he's a guy that you can look at when you get into a regional as a 4th starter, 5th starter.
And how do you keep him up, like his confidence up, and just saying, hey, there's going to be bumps and bruises. You just have to work yourself through it out here on the mound.
Yeah, I think the thing you say to him is just like, man, you haven't played for 2 years. Like every opportunity on the field should be one that's championed. Because I mean, I can tell you as a player, like when you get hurt and you have that significant amount of time off, it's hard to keep the dark thoughts out of, am I ever actually going to be able to play again? So I just know, with him, it's like, man, any opportunity to be on the field is a great one. If it doesn't go your way, it doesn't go your way. The competitor in him is always going to be one. He wants to do well, and he will. I believe, but at the same time, like for him, let's put it in this perspective of, man, you've missed 2 years. Like you haven't played basically in 2 years.
So going back to the offense, which we mentioned a few guys already, kind of on the summary, but just a solid overall positive output from the offense. 15 hits on the day. Peyton Chatnier had 3. Carson Bowen had 3. And then we had a number of guys with a couple hits, including Curtis Byrne and Logan Maxwell, who looked great with 2 doubles. I mean, the offense came from everywhere. There wasn't really one guy stepping up, and I didn't really feel like anyone, had a bad day. I don't think Tony had any hits, but he's still putting the ball in play and got on base because, he ran faster than they could throw it. So thoughts on the offense from today?
I'll start it off. A couple of things. Jack Rasier filling in for Peyton Tolley, both Saturday and Sunday. All that dude did was barrel balls. It didn't always result in hits, but he made solid contact all weekend long. And I think he's definitely earned more playing time going forward. And then back to that first inning, when Carson Bowen came up, it was me and Jacob in the crowd. He's had some tough luck in his at-bats to start the year. A lot of hard hit line drives, but just right at defenders. He gets a little dribbler up the middle that gets, just a little bit past the shortstop, infield hit. Jacob turned to me and said, that's going to start the Carson Bowen hot streak. And then all he did was just barrel balls, including that massive home run later in the game.
Yeah, Carson was huge. He was 3 for 3 with 5 RBIs, including a sac fly. Also, Sam Myers was really good, playing for Luke Boyers. But this is kind of what we talked about all offseason was this team is so deep. Like, this is a different team than TCU's probably ever had, for the most part. Even those Omaha teams, it was like those guys are starting 60-plus games every year. It's not going to be like that this year. There's going to be guys that are not considered starters, but they're going to play a lot. We also, going off of the overreactions from last week, there was a lot of people talking about Logan Maxwell hitting in the 2-hole. What a week he had. And then Curtis Byrne, we had a lot of people complaining about him hitting 3rd. And it seems like he just didn't want to do it against slower competition. So he wanted to do it, in a top 20 matchup. Shows what he's really got. I mean, he kind of carried him in the first 2 games, I think.
Did we already talk about the way he runs? Did someone say like Iron Man? Like, I mean, he's faster this year for sure, but when he hits that home run, he takes his time. It's awesome to watch.
It's a lot of loud running, MK. A lot of loud running.
Y'all, can we talk about the perfect execution from the offense from Logan over the weekend? This was over the entire weekend, from Logan Maxwell's perfect slash bunt to the two just absolute gems of hit and runs that were called and well executed right back past the second baseman that was going to cover second.
Yes, we can talk about it. You guys have thought? I think you summed it up, Ray. I mean, they didn't make a lot of mistakes, behind the plate like that. Especially, that one by Curtis. I'm not even sure if he, I don't know if he meant to hit it opposite field, but he's like, it was a hit and run, so he swung anyway, and it was the perfect placement.
I like that we did it against a team like UCLA. There's all this talk about West Coast baseball and, we love our West Coast baseball. And then they talk about TJ Bruce and, he's West Coast baseball. And I don't know if I think it's more of like a hybrid game where his is like definitely more aggressive. We're not sack bunting. We're like trying to bunt to get on or trying to bunt to make something happen, trying to make them make a play.
He's Mountain West hybrid.
He's the best.
I see Perk shaking his head. Why is that?
It's just just race jokes. It's
Okay.
sometimes you can't not shake your head at.
Oh, come on. That was good.
The
Mark's
youngest
talking about
guy,
it as a hybrid.
the youngest guy in the group with the worst dad jokes of all. Like, can't. We do love. I mean, TJ stuff is
Sorry
is
to
different.
derail.
Yeah, I know you're good. It's his stuff is different, and so he's not a true believer in the West Coast style. I mean, he obviously lived it, being at UCLA for the years he did, but coming here, like, he understood, like, you can't play that style in the South. Like, you just can't, because you're gonna run up against teams that are gonna be mashing the baseball all over the yard, and so you got to be able to have those crooked number innings. And so to see him kind of find the way, and also he just challenges guys to be more than just one dimensional. That's the part too. It's like he's going to challenge guys and make them, force them to expand their game and not just stay with what they're comfortable.
What I like with TJ Bruce is that I noticed over the weekend is he'll go out and talk to the on deck hitter with what he's seeing and coach him up while they're in the on deck circle. I haven't really seen that out of many coaches, but man, I love that.
Right. He's just talking to him about like how goofy the guy looks. He's not giving him any insight there. That's just
trying to make him laugh.
Yeah.
Going up there telling a dad joke himself.
Probably. I mean, like I said, you want to think it's so profound things, but he honestly could be talking about anything.
Oh, yeah. No, I thought it was like a deep strategical numbers talk. Yeah. Like, hey, if this is what the pitcher's doing, let's try to do this and this at bat kind of thing.
No, he's like, hey, did you hear Drunk Ray last week on Postgame Beer?
Yeah.
Big fan of the long drink. Big fan. Hey, he's going to support the product. I can tell you that.
Brother, I do too.
I know we spent a lot of time prepping for the show, but does anyone want to guess the team leader in batting average, ops, and slugging right now?
Brody Green.
You got it, Martin. You got it. He's leading all three with a 529 average, 1428 ops. Chase obviously started off strong over 2,000, but dropped a little bit, slugging 882. All right, and not to turn it negative necessarily, but there's only two players, non-starters. So let's or starters, excuse me. So Ryder Robinson doesn't count, even though he had that first couple games. But so think of the starters. Only two players with a batting average below 309 and an ops below 929. Any guesses on those two?
Luke Boyers.
There's one.
Luke Boyers. Does he count for two?
It's tough, right?
Yeah.
Is it Carson Bowen?
It's not. No, it's not. He actually picked up a lot this weekend with a strong weekend. The second one is Peyton Tolley. So kind of transitioning to that, kind of the elephant in the room. On Saturday, I don't think any of us were overly concerned about a day off. I think that's kind of expected, especially having the dual role that he has. Then again, today he has another day off. even if Ray knows insider information, I don't think he's going to share it live on the pod, breaking that news. But I guess now it's time to talk about like projecting what's going on with him. Thoughts on Peyton?
Well, what I can tell you is
There we go.
I don't think it's injury related at all, because you watch him whenever he's celebrating and he is out there full hip thrusting and running around. There's no wraps on him, no braces. He's not really in slides. He's still fully dressed. I think it's just a couple of days off because Jack Brasier was hitting the ball so well.
Perk, you concerned about this?
Yes.
Huh.
Yes.
Huh.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. That's like I love your analogy, Ray. First off, I've never known a TCU player to ever wear slides on the baseball field. So that one's, but yeah, I mean, I just think like I get the portion that he's going to need some rest because he's like trying to do both, but you got to be some kind of sore somewhere to not be able to swing a bat for 2 days. And it's not because they thought that they had it in the bag. Like this is a team that they respected and obviously was going to play close to. It's like, you know, I'm just, you never know. I mean, you never know. Like I said, and guys, they can feel great off the field, but on the field, when they're trying to execute what they're doing, it can be definitely different. So I don't like the optics of 2 days off, you know, in this situation this early in the year.
I mean, yeah, today, like, okay, if something minor had come up, right? It's not the time of the year where you want to push through it, right? Maybe he is a little sore with something, but I'm just telling you by his body language about celebrating with the guys over the weekend. I don't think it's something major. I just think it's totally precautionary on TCU's end.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's, and like I said, it could be that, you know, you just don't want to see that out of your Friday night 4-hole hitter. You have precautions this early. You know what I mean? You want to think that they're pretty fresh and ready to go, but it happens. I mean, again, we got a long ride. You know, we don't even know who's going to be playing short all year. We think it's going to be Silva, right?
We're 7 games into a 5-game season.
Yeah.
At least.
It's time to overreact, Ray. What are we here for if we're not going to overreact?
Oh my God. Peyton Tolley, Tommy John on Tuesday. That's what Perk is saying.
That's not what I said. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Martin, thoughts on Tolley?
Oh, I think Tolley was totally disrespecting UCLA by not playing Saturday and Sunday.
He just kicked back. They don't need me.
Yeah.
I'm just going to kick back and watch all these home runs.
Well, you know, I thought maybe it had something to do with so many games being played in a short amount of time, but then you'd think he'd sit the midweek games, right? Perk makes a great point.
Maybe they think more of Washington State and Arizona than they do of UCLA.
I mean, Arizona just cost me in post-game picks, so I don't see why they think highly of Arizona. But yes, you'd think in a ranked matchup that these would be the games that he'd be playing instead of 2 midweek games.
Saturday makes a lot of sense, especially after pitching, right?
Sure.
I think we'll probably see that throughout the season where he takes the second game off. But man, I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting what happens on Friday afternoon, actually, right? USC, it's a 2:00 game, and we assume he will be pitching.
I would say let's see what happens on Tuesday evening with Washington State.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so on the pitching, one of the big themes from the weekend, it's hard to take a lot from 2 data points, right? But Tolley against FGCU went 3 innings, and he went 5 against UCLA. Klecker went from 3 innings pitched to 4 1/3. Morris, same 4 innings pitched, but only gave up 2 runs instead of 5. So I think some positive movement in terms of just their overall performance.
Yeah. Peyton Tolley on Friday was the first TCU starter of the season to go and complete 5 innings of work.
That's kind of wild.
When you're 5 games in, a little bit.
Yeah. A name mentioned earlier that we haven't gotten a chance to talk about is Luis Rodriguez. I mean, we saw him, like you said, on Tuesday for a couple innings. I don't know if he's kind of one of those guys I expect to see every weekend. So that was a surprise. We saw Zach Collier. We're seeing him twice a weekend, and I don't know. Anybody have thoughts on Louis? I don't think he's hurt.
I think they want to save him to start him on Wednesday. I think you're in the middle of a stretch where you're playing 8 baseball games in 10 days. You're going to need pitching against Arizona. That's a big RPI game too. I think they're saving him for Wednesday.
Okay. All right. Big picture thoughts, guys. What do you guys got? So mentioned, obviously, the offense is clicking on all cylinders. We really don't have a lot of guys that are struggling very much. Brody Green's kind of been a highlight of the year just in terms of offense, and he after not starting that first few games has really come out and pretty much taken that job by the reins. I don't think we'll see any change from him unless he needs a day off here and there. But what else do you guys have in your notes?
What would you call this? The stable of catcher and first base switching back and forth, going 50-50. I think that's worked out great so far. Peyton Chanier has been a huge, big energy guy, big leadership guy, big, he's got some pop in the bat. And it's just like he kind of hypes these guys up and makes them think that they can do anything. So I think that's
him down as well, Martin. That was my one of my big takeaway notes from the weekend was Peyton, and what I think early on, what I think he's going to mean to this team down the stretch, insofar as being a leader in the room and just kind of that answer as a leadoff guy that we were going to have to replace this year. And he's been very, very impressive thus far. So I'm excited to keep watching what Peyton does for us in that leadoff spot.
I mean, if you having the threat of a home run to start the game is something that I don't know how many years we've had that, where the leadoff guy's been a threat to put the ball out of the ballpark. I mean, and that's tough as a scouting when you're going into a game of hey, we can't just groove the first pitch here because he might smack it. It just puts you on notice right off the bat towards hey, if we don't get this guy out, it sets the tone completely for their inning. And by the way, if you just groove it, he might put it out of the ballpark. And so that is a tough thing to plan against, especially over a weekend with 3 starters of hey, how are we going to attack this guy? Because 1, he can do damage with the barrel. 2, if we try to work around him and we put him on the base, he's just going to start running. And it's just so that's a tough, like I said, it's tough. I mean, in the past few years we've had Eli, he's always a threat to get on base, but you never worried about him putting the ball out. But having a guy that actually has pop in the one hole, that's a good weapon to have.
And the biggest thing because he's always had pop. He's been a 10 home run second baseman at Ole Miss. But the biggest thing that I've noticed is that he already has 8 walks, where at Ole Miss last year in the whole season, he only had 22. So that's about a third of the walks that he had last year, just in 2 weeks. There was a lot of talk about him changing his approach, changing his, swing, his, he's trying to be more of an on-base guy, and he really is doing that. And he only had 11 stolen bases in his career at Ole Miss in 4 years. So I think he's going to destroy that. It's just a totally new player that we have on our, leading off for us than what we thought we were getting in the portal.
I mean, do you also look at that as when we get these guys in and they start to show these skill set that what was going on at their previous programs? Just you kind of look at the philosophy differences where I think TCU is one, from, Todd Whitting to Bill Mosiello to now TJ, they're trying to stretch every facet of the game with every guy. It's no just hey, you do your one thing and that's it. You know what I mean? And I think that's just a testament to the program that when you come here, it's, hey, you're going to be a complete player. You're not just going to be a 1 to 2 dimensional.
So what I've noticed these first 2 weeks out of the offense is it's carried over from the fall, as they were really strong in the fall, and it's carried over the spring. I think what's really helped them has been the batter's eye. And I talked to, whenever I did post game on Saturday, I asked Logan if he liked the new batter's eye. He said, love it. I love that there's no longer car headlights on a night game from Bel Air in my eyes as I'm trying to bat. I think the batter's eye has extremely helped this offense up and down. And on the pitching side, for me, I think the growth from Braden Sloan and Chase Hoover has been huge for this team. Braden Sloan, the ability to come in and strike batters out is huge. And then throwing Sloan in when Collier started to wobble a little tiny bit there in the ninth on his second day of work to come in and shut down UCLA, a top 20 team in the country. That's huge, massive for their growth, their development, and will carry well as the season progresses.
You know who the batter's eye has not helped?
Luke Boyers.
The home plate umpires.
No, but we're still winning despite some iffy umpiring.
We think it was just a night off for Luke, or Kirk said this, before the season started. Every job is open, right? Is this a real threat for Sam Myers to take over that position?
I think it absolutely has to be, man. I mean, Sam came in, and then on top of that, he was productive. So if Kirk's going to practice what he preaches on that, then absolutely, I think that job is open for him to take, and it's open for Luke to win back too.
I mean, I think the thing you look at Luke is like he's been here long enough that you know what you're going to get. You know what I mean? And so it's like if it's not clicking, it's not clicking, and we've seen what not clicking looks like for him, and it can be very long stretches. And so it's not one where it's unfortunate. It's like it's one of those things like you've been here too long to get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, and Sam Myers isn't the only guy who's been playing that could be taking some of those at bats in right field. Jack Basier, he's not gonna have that DH position available every time. Peyton Tully's gonna come back in the lineup. Jack Basier is a guy who can play any corner position. So with his bat doing well, he's a candidate to take over some of those plate appearances in right field as well.
Looking for serious questions in the chat. I don't see a lot of them. I see some jokes. Jackson Day, should we be worried that we're just so much better than all of our opponents? It doesn't look like we'll have to start trying until Arlington. Literally, Jackson, but appreciate the optimism there.
Arlington, like next weekend, because those opponents are a lot worse than what we face this weekend.
I think he was talking about the Big 12 tournament, but I don't know.
I think one thing to hit on is the being able to retain Curtis Byrne, I think is going to pay dividends for this team. Mm-hmm. Not that, we obviously Carson had a heck of a year last year, but like being able to, like we've already said, them kind of ping pong back and forth at first base and Curtis being able to swing the bat. Like, I think it's huge that they were able to keep him because, to be honest, I didn't know if he was going to stay like after last year, because I felt he had a good enough year to where he would have some interest outside the program. And he knew going into the offseason that it was probably Carson's job. And he would, so it's like being able to keep that guy in house and then see that, I think it's going to, pay off big time.
I think it's great that they actually have a third catcher in Tim Reynolds. He doesn't, you're never really ever going to see him, right? But he gives you the ability to play Carson or Curtis at first and not have to worry about catcher if one of those go down, or what are you going to do if, something unfortunate happens during the game. I think Tim Reynolds is an unsung hero of this team.
We haven't seen him yet, have we? Has he played any innings?
We've only seen him come out and warm up a pitcher whenever Carson or Curtis have to go put the shin pads on.
Okay.
But the threat is real, MK. The threat is real.
Hey, 5 games this week. You never know. Maybe they'll throw him in. If we're beating down the Cougars on Tuesday night.
Least favorite time of the year is these stretches. Least favorite time of the year.
You mean adding an extra game?
Yeah, it's such a tough thing to do just to map out as far as pitching goes and guys playing. I mean, we talk about the pitching, but it's like putting Silva through 5 straight games in a week when he's used to 4 at the most. Like it does take a toll, and I don't like it that these things are scheduled on a regular basis. I really don't understand why we still are in a state where we have to do this, because it shouldn't be that way.
Do you think it's a little bit different now that they increased the roster limits?
It helps. It definitely helps having more bodies, because you're going to see guys play that you don't necessarily. And in that regard, you can get some younger guys some innings and stuff like that. But still, just the whole mechanics of it, it throws off your weeks. It completely looks different. Practice has got to be some. I mean, you're going to play Tuesday and Wednesday. You're not practicing Thursday. Like you're going to go through your walkthrough like you normally would, but it's going to be very light because you got to get ready for a weekend. You know what I mean? So I don't like that we're still doing this, because I don't see the advantage for really any team to have to go 5 games in a week.
Your practice is those extra 9 innings on Wednesday.
Yep.
Do you think that it helps that we're not playing a single team 3 times in a row this week? Like, I think all of these teams are also playing 5 games, and it's like one-offs.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, yeah, the weekend is chopped up. I mean, you still got two games against USC. So
They're
you
not
still got
very
2.
good, though.
No, I mean, and that I've got thoughts on that on these matchups on the weekend, these Globe Life tournaments. I've got thoughts, but
well, let's hear them, because we're not going to be back. With these games, it's tough on us podcasters too. We can't put out a preview episode this week because we're going to be at Lupton, rooting these guys on. Let's hear them.
I get that you want to try to bring in as much as possible, but like, one, I think TCU should be a staple to open the season every single year there. I think the program is good enough. It's nationally well known. I think it should be in the opening weekend, every single one. We should not be playing an outdoor game to start the season. That's how I feel. That I think that we draw well enough to have people there, and it's going to be good baseball. And so my opinion is we should start the weekend there, and then good on them for stretching it out as much as they can before the Rangers actually come back in the ballpark. But also, it's like some of these games, you're like, why do we have these teams here? Like,
you're talking about
what
Michigan
value?
and Baylor these past 2 weekends. It's exactly what you mean.
Not even that. I mean, it's fine. It's fine to have that. Like, I would love for it to be an automatic Big 12 SEC tournament. I would love it to be the thing, just open the weekend, have 3 Big 12 teams, have 3 SEC teams. Let's see what happens. So I'm good with that kind of stuff, even if it's, you have mix in, some different ones, but it's just, you look at it and you're like, this doesn't make any sense why we have these games and these teams playing here. But they're making money, so who cares?
The Texas Tech, Oregon State, no streaming available. Nobody's able to watch the game. That was weird.
Yeah, they got some problems with it when it comes to the television rights over there that they're working out. We'll get there.
I think Texas Tech playing UTA at Globe Life the night before was even weirder. Like, why not just play that at Clay Gold or whatever, and then you have an ESPN broadcast partner there already set up, ready to go.
The teams are getting more money to play in Globe Life. I mean, that's
it can't be that much more money.
It can't be that much, but it's still more, right?
Globe Life's getting more money for them to be there. Like I don't think they're paying. I think they're paying in that situation to have the midweek games there versus them being offered to come in. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
So, question from Michael Bartko, and got a couple responses in the chat. Will we move up in the rankings? Only undefeated top 10 team with a top 20 sweep. Just as a refresher, above us in the rankings, Frogs are at 5. At number 1, you've got Wake Forest. 2, you've got Arkansas. 3, LSU, and 4, Florida. All 4 of them won their weekend series.
Well, I've been trolling Arkansas fans all weekend because they had a disappointing weekend. They've now lost their second game of the year. They dropped a game to an inferior Big 12 team. Can't get over the Big 12 hump. And they only won 4-3 against a Michigan team that is on par with Baylor with how bad they are. We should be above Arkansas at least.
Arkansas is not going to drop 3 spots.
They should. Why not? Don't let Hagen Smith and his amazing outing on Friday cloud your judgment about the frauds in Fayetteville.
I'm not saying what I want to happen, Ray, or what I would vote for. I'm telling you what D1 and their, which we love D1, right? We had Eric on last week and Kendall. We love those guys. But when you have a panel of 10 guys collectively, their votes are not going to change the order too much, in my opinion. I think it's going to be exactly the same 1 through 5.
They're not going to move us all the way to number 1, right? We're not bumping Wake Forest.
No.
TCU should be number 2. LSU played Stony Brook this weekend, lost on Friday, and gave up 10 runs to them today. Frauds. Florida lost to St. John, got swept by St. John's. And then they swept Columbia, an Ivy League school. Does the Ivy League even play baseball? Frauds. Get them out of here. Arkansas,
I hear what you're saying.
2 losses. Frauds. Get them out of here.
Ray, they don't make
TCU's number
decisions.
2 team in the country.
They don't make decisions based on one game. They make decisions based on series. You know that.
Well, I'm giving you the whole
With,
weekend of arguments right here.
With TCU sweeping a top 20 team and Florida not really playing anybody and LSU hasn't really played anybody, I could see us jumping those 2 teams. I don't see us jumping Arkansas because they actually played in one of these tournaments and lost. The loss to Oklahoma State was in the 14th inning. So they're going to
to an inferior Big 12 conference. Just ask SEC teams.
They've been glazing Wake Forest all off season, so I don't see them moving Wake Forest off of number 1 anytime soon. I do believe somebody will have us number 1. I just don't think it's going to be the poll that actually matters.
Rooney will, because he was in attendance for all 3 games and saw this Frog team up close and personal.
I'm actually surprised he was there for all 3. You know, typically those guys would come in. There was a ton of good baseball being played in the Metroplex this weekend. DBU, I know they had a big matchup against, what was it, Central Michigan or something, and they killed them. And all the games in Arlington.
I thought Rooney had a funny comment this weekend. He said UCLA has a $100 bill roster, but they're playing like they're $75.
Where'd you see that?
I'm not saying. It was a comment he made. Martin.
You can't find this on d1baseball.com?
You will not find this on d1baseball.com or on Twitter, X, whatever it's called. Not on Discord. Only here with the LDC will you find this information.
But you didn't say.
Like and subscribe.
Go to the Discord and I'll tell you.
Question from Jackson earlier on about the pitching rotation. When you have I guess I'm going to try to tweak this a little bit for the purposes of this week. You know, we have 5 games, right? So he says, could we have sat Tolley, have him pitch twice this week? Like what kind of, I know that we've already talked about Luis Rodriguez and likely starting a new guy who hasn't started on a Tuesday or Friday through Sunday in that Wednesday slot. But would they ever do anything where they actually, like a regional almost, you know, you're throwing your best pitchers out there every 3 or 4 games? Is that something they would ever consider?
No, keep them on the same schedule.
They'd rather lose all 5 games than to try that. Like,
okay, go on.
Like I mean, you'd rather go 0-5 for the week than to try to like win these. I mean, because again, we get wrapped up the metrics of it, RPI, all that kind of stuff does play into it. But at the same time, it's the 3rd week of the season, and if you tried something like this, we need to win the games against Tech. We need to win the games against Oklahoma. We need to win the games against the ones that matter. So it's like if we drop 2 midweek games now, okay, like who cares? I mean, you know, they were 23-20 at one point last year, and they made the run. So
yeah, well, if we are 7-5 after this weekend, we're going to have you back.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first. I will be here for lashings if we're
answer to our answer to the comments saying Perk called it. He said we were going 0-5.
Mm-hmm. Hey, do we play DBU after the weekend next week?
I think we play ACU. Yeah, we play ACU. Then we go to Kansas, and then we go at DBU.
Okay, good. DBU is not. I was thinking that DBU was after this long stretch, which that would have been toof.
Hosting Abilene Christian, which helps.
Yeah, they're frauds. A lot of frauds we're talking about tonight.
Ray doesn't believe in any team
except for the Frogs.
Shane Becknow.
Man, I love the Frogs. MILFs.
No kidding. Shane Becknow, we did talk about third base. We do believe it's locked up with Brody Green for now. That pending any change in his defensive or offensive performance, but he looks great out there. So,
hey, MK, from our very good friend Bella Fox, What if we just win every game and never lose again?
Still won't be number one, says David May.
Number one in my heart, though.
Fellas, closing thoughts before we get out of here.
I think this team is really good. The offensive depth is something we haven't seen in a long time. I mean, they have solid bench options that you feel comfortable with coming into a game. And then the pitching depth is unbelievable.
Martin, where you at?
Frog's good.
Frogs are indeed good. Frogs are very good. I just want to get through this week, man. I just want to get through this stupid Globe Life Field, these 2 midweeks. Just get it this all behind us. Let's go play some Big 12 games.
Dang, it's crazy. Fun. Yeah, you get through this week, and then it's off to Big 12 play.
It's time. It's time.
It's crazy.
I know.
Mark, great to have you back. Any closing thoughts for tonight? 7-0 Frogs.
Yeah, I mean it's good to see. 2 sweeps early in the year. That's always fun. That's going to keep it light in the locker room. Those guys are going to have a lot of confidence, which is what you love. Just want to kind of see this will be this weekend is where I think you can actually start putting feet to the fire when it comes to the starters. If it looks the same that it is the last 2 weekends, that's when we got to start having questions. But this is when you should click. And so I'm looking to see this weekend, even with the messed up schedule and who we're playing twice, all that kind of stuff. But really want to see those guys take a jump because, like we said, the next weekend we're in Big 12 play and it matters. Like it matters. This we have seen games against Kansas somehow matter when it comes to trophies and tournament time.
You talk
All
about
right.
keeping it lighthearted in the locker room. It keeps it lighthearted on this podcast because wasn't it Florida? We had the Florida State debacle the second weekend of last year that we had to talk about. I mean, we're feet up having fun now.
Baseball's fun, Ray.
Baseball
fun.
is fun in Fort Worth. There are some other teams and some other schools not having very much fun. We're having fun.
Big week. We got Washington State on Tuesday, Arizona on Wednesday, both at Lupton, and then a Globe Life tournament this weekend playing USC. Early game on Friday at 2:00. They've got the late game on Saturday versus Arizona State, and then another one on Sunday versus USC again because that coach down south refused to play us. We appreciate you guys joining in the chat. Thanks for all the comments and questions. Really, I feel I'm happy that that's growing a little bit, and you guys are joining, watching us live. We are not going to do a midweek pod this week. It's just too much. We could do on Thursday, but it wouldn't be out in time for you guys to really pay attention to listen for Friday. So we're going to hold off, and we will see you all at Lupton. hellshalfacre.com/Lupton Drinking Club.
A mega pod next weekend, 3 hours, Joe Rogan style, about
right,
TCU baseball.
So 45 minutes for the rest of us, and Ray's going to rant for the next couple hours after that, after he finishes his 5th peach long drink. Appreciate the sponsors. As always, we'll see you all on Tuesday. Go Frogs.
Go Frogs.